Welcome to the Unbroken Arrows podcast. I'm Greg, and today I have a special guest with me because Catherine and her boyfriend Nate are out hunting in the West River region. That's about as general as I can get now for them. But my guest today is my wife, Stephanie, Catherine's mom. And Stephanie has been on the program before. And so welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. He always gives me a hard time how I do my initial hi. So I don't know. I guess I don't have a very good radio voice to.
Well, no, it actually, what it reminded me of was public radio. Like, hi, I'm here. So
I am here.
I would also like to point out to our listeners that this is actually another Whispering Pinescast, as we are at Little Mantrap Lake, north of Park Rapids, Minnesota, in the heartland of Minnesota, Lake Country, as they call it. And we've just decided to take a few days, and we're enjoying the pre-fall because it's really not, I would think, I've been up here in September where a lot of the leaves have already fallen, or they're at least changing there's a lot of color change, but this is definitely not one of those years.
Which is kind of interesting because I actually saw something on Facebook yesterday that a Minneapolis meteorologist or something like that had posted when the colors were going to be the best throughout the state of Minnesota. And it said now for northern Minnesota, which was, I want to say like Bemidji and north, which I know we're a little bit south of Bemidji yet.
Right.
But I was like, man, there's just not much color.
Well, we had high hopes on our trip here between Detroit Lakes and Park Rapids. There were some very pretty maples in particular starting to turn red. But again, where we're at, there's maples are kind of far and few between, and we've seen birch and aspen that have already lost all of their leaves. But
and what's that bush that I like a lot? Turns red in the
sumac.
Fall. Yeah, sumac. And even that, I told you, it's kind of a brown, burgundy. It's not that bright red, which it is typically. So I don't know.
Well, sumac a lot of times is one of the first things to turn, because even in our trip, one of our last trips to Nebraska, I was pointing out to you that
there was some
already turning red. So maybe it's past.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I'm not sure, but no, it's the weather is really pretty warm. When I think about some of the times I've been up here closing, early October, I've been up here where I've brought flannel shirts and jeans and no shorts and no real t-shirts, and I've just sweat profusely, but I've also gone up here and woke up in the morning with snow on the ground, that first or second week of October, which isn't that far away. So I know that when they say the north winds start to blow here, things change quick, so I'm not sure.
According to yesterday, I would say then things are going to start changing pretty quickly. Or was that not a north?
South wind?
Oh.
Yeah, that was a
south. Well, it was a blustery south wind.
Yeah, it was real windy. Yesterday we went on a side-by-side UTV ride, and we really didn't get to see a whole lot. Only really went on one trail. Otherwise, we went on some of the roads, and we went to go eat lunch. But again, the wind was such that it really wasn't that enjoyable. So hopefully we can maybe go this afternoon. But
definitely. But we had a good meal.
Yes, we did.
And one of the reasons why we're not doing so much is because I'm actually laid up. It kind of is inhibiting our activity level to a good extent. So.
Right. You had surgery on your foot and you're non-weight bearing.
Yes.
So she's wheeling around on the little scooter in the cabin, and I have to, load the little scooter up, no matter whether we're taking the pickup or the side-by-side, and she just refuses to use crutches, and I'm not sure why, but it'd make things easier if she used crutches.
Well,
I'm feeling more confident saying this on the podcast rather than saying this to you in person. It's like
it might be easier for you to hand me a pair of crutches, but then I'm the one that has to use them.
and that is true. That's true. So, well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today on our podcast, Stephanie, is over the years, and our over the years are only a few because, as everyone knows our stories, we were married on June 3rd, 2023.
Good job.
Yes, I visualized the little.
I don't know.
I visualized the gift from Rita and Terry that
got it.
they made. So and I think the one time I said it was June 4th, I was sitting right in front of that, and I could have looked. But anyway, one of the things that we try to promote on the Unbroken Arrows podcast is getting outside, enjoying the outdoors, and searching or finding those healing powers that the outdoors can bring. And as we've shared in our story, that one of the things that drew us together were our interests in being outside, whether it be hiking or hunting. We've done some different things with regard to outdoor activities that are new to either you or me, or both of us. And some of the things that we've done over the last few years, we've kayaked. We've also hit the trails on the side-by-side. We've started to play pickleball, just to name a few of those things. And we're, shall I say, I'm later in life than you, but these things are new to us, relatively new, all of those types of things, because I didn't buy my first kayak until, I do believe it was probably 2017 or 18, and I didn't get to use it a whole lot. But then I bought a different kayak would have been 2020. And so we have both of those kayaks now. And of course,
One of them is more comfortable than the other, by the way. And
that's the one I use because I'm older. So,
and I've been taught to respect my elders, just like my daughter has. So therefore, I don't fight with him too much about it.
oh boy, this is getting deep quick, folks.
Actually, can we back up a little bit? Because
Sure.
this is the first time that you and I have been on a podcast by ourselves, I think.
Correct.
And you mentioned how we've only been together for a few years and everybody knows our history and stuff. Have you ever told the listeners, like, how we met?
I don't think so.
Because, the hunting thing is kind of a bigger piece of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Can I tell them the story?
So Stephanie, how did we meet?
So we were both actually on Catholic Match, and I don't know if anybody knows. I'm sure people that are single know about these different online ventures that are available. But what you do is you set up a profile, basically, and I had my profile set. I had only been on
At
for
some point in time, there's going to be several things where I'm going to stop and put disclaimers on here, just so you know. But go ahead, Stephanie.
I think I'll tell it how it actually happened. I'm not going to, embellish anything.
Okay, we'll give her a go.
So, but anyway, I had been on for about a week, I think, and I did set my parameters up. So therefore, I think I actually had an age of like 10 years older kind of thing on mine. And not that there was any magical number about that. It just is what I put on there as far as who would show up in my search.
Profile,
yeah, in my search. And you had literally had it open, and I don't remember for how long, but you were getting ready to close it. You had recently taken a trip up here, actually, to Whispering Pines with your brother. And on the way back, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of had a conversation with God and just said, you know what, I'm okay being single for the rest of my life, and this is just my new reality, and so forth. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So you were kind of getting ready to go in and shut her down, so to speak.
Yep.
And
well, just to kind of clarify that, I wasn't an active person on that website very much. After I originally set the profile up, a friend of mine said, "Why don't you do that?" So I did, and it was not. I guess it just wasn't me. So didn't really feel comfortable with that.
The thing is that our age, when A, we didn't plan on being single.
Correct.
And B, like, meeting people, at our age. You had moved back to a small town where you grew up. So your number of people that are in your circle of influence at that point is fairly small. I was raising kids still at home. It's not like we were going to frequent, bars or, whatever. So, it's not necessarily something that any of us are, I would say, super comfortable with, or
That's a good point.
something we look forward to, kind of thing.
Right.
So anyway, you went in to close her down basically, and you saw my profile because in my profile, I am also a hunter and a fisherwoman and love the outdoors. And I had some pictures. I think actually Catherine and I, there's a picture of us pheasant hunting. I think there was a picture of me getting ready to go out West River with Catherine turkey hunting. Anyway, so you saw the pictures of me. I don't know if I had camo on or orange or whatever, but it struck you.
Yeah, it did. As an outdoorsy type of person, yes.
Right. And so you actually contacted me. And I think in one of the very first mentions was like, hey, I'm out here.
I'm an old guy.
And do you see how old I was? And I'm like, yep, sure did, or whatever. But to make a long story short, hunting or the idea of liking the outdoors is really what drew us together in the first place.
That is true. And looking back on those types of things, if I remember right, kind of our first phone conversation, you were in the process of going to put up no hunting or no trespassing signs or something at a friend's place.
Well, I had a friend that was also a single gal, and she had some property or whatever, and she was not a hunter herself and wouldn't really allow hunting on her property. But because of my situation of not really having property to hunt on anymore, she was like, you can come out here and hunt. Well, we were seeing signs of other people trespassing and putting up their deer stands and stuff like that on her property. And so I was going out to hang up signs to say no hunting. So, yep.
Yep. So our first date was a church.
It was.
So,
can I tell him the funny story about that?
And you go right ahead.
So Greg has a Dodge Ram pickup, and he met me, and we were about an hour for both of us. We met at
Vermilion.
Vermilion, South Dakota, and went to Mass. And when I got into his truck afterwards to go grab a coffee or a bite to eat or something like that, I just glanced in the back seat, and there's a galvanized bucket of ratchet straps. Like, literally nothing else is in this truck. It's cleaned. You could tell that the guy cleaned it out before he came and got me, but there's a bucket of ratchet straps. And the only thing I could think of is...
there was a river nearby.
Yeah, right. And the only thing I could think of is, okay, I didn't get any red flags from talking with this guy, up until now. And we had talked, I think, for about a week before we did this. And my mom is going to tell me this was real stupid, or she's going to find out it was real stupid, because my life could be about over. So anyway, so those of you that are in the online dating world out there, you just never know what you're going to run across.
Those could be red flags, but in my case, you always could possibly need a ratchet strap.
Yeah, in Greg's world, a ratchet strap is a little bit like duct tape, Most guys, have duct tape, and, Greg relies on ratchet straps quite, and he's serious about them. So, and he knows how to use them.
And I just used them yesterday, too. But that's
so then the next funny story about that is, because then after I survived and was able to tell about this, a little bit of a panic that came through my heart when I saw those ratchet straps the first time. The very next time that he picked me up, I was at a Catholic retreat, just day retreat, like half day, whatever. And he came to pick me up and then take me back to Sioux Falls because I had went down with a friend. And he brought me flowers. And the flowers were stuck in the bucket of ratchet straps in the front seat when he opened the doors.
Yes, that was... That was my peace offering, I
I'm
guess.
kind of surprised my engagement ring didn't come in the form of
The
the
ratchet strap
the ratchet
bucket.
straps as well. You weren't really thinking there, were you?
No, I wasn't. That would have been a perfect opportunity, wouldn't it?
Okay, so anyway, back to your question about so we've started these new things, kayaking, pickleball,
Well, I
ATV.
want to bring up the kayaking event because it also
Oh,
has a
geez.
river involved in this, and it also has potential death
Jeez.
all over it. And I'm going to start the story by saying that I grew up in northeast Nebraska, and the Missouri River has been has long been one of my favorite places to frequent in terms of fishing and just spending time on it and near it. And ever since I purchased my first kayak, I wanted to kayak the Missouri River. And I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for Stephanie to really get a good kayaking experience. And I will say, before we start to get into the real details of this, I will admit that what I did lack in the planning of this, in terms of we should
We
have.
need to podcast more often because I've never
I've
been
never been so sincere
honest.
and honest.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But I mean,
This
like
could be good for our relationship,
the things like having enough water and those kinds of things. But
You also may not have known my lack of experience. I mean, I don't know that I had ever been in a kayak before, maybe like on a pond or something.
right, and the Missouri River probably wasn't the first place that you should have been kayaking on a major trip. But
Yeah, I don't know if it was super dangerous, like
no,
current
see,
wise
you're
or anything.
admitting something now too. So,
Well,
yes.
until doom came.
Yeah.
But
Well, the old Gilligan's Island, they went out for a 3-hour cruise. Well, I think I told you that it would be a couple hours
right.
at the most. And I did underestimate then the time that it was going to take for us to do that. But
And we left probably, I don't know,
noonish,
11 o'clock.
yeah,
Yeah.
11 noon, something like that.
And we didn't take any food with us. We didn't take any sunscreen with us.
Not enough water.
Yeah, I think we both had a water bottle, kind of thing. And I had a little sandwich bag of grapes. And I don't know if we had anything else.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think a fishing pole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could have caught fish if we needed to survive on an island.
Eat raw fish.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
No, that wouldn't have been good. But no,
That might have killed us.
To try to speed this story up, where those of you that are familiar with where the Niobrara River runs into the Missouri, there's a lot of sediment that's dumped in to the river there, and there's a lot of vegetation. And in my defense, I hadn't been on the river since the floods of, what was that, 2013, I think, or 2014. And it had changed quite a bit. I thought we could get through by
Wasn't there actually
staying
a
on
really terrible flood just a couple years prior to this that like took out verdigris and stuff?
boy,
I thought,
when was that?
yeah, that was like 20 or something like that.
Well, let me think back here because, and I may edit this out, I may not. This was after Holly died because oh no, it was not. It was the year before. It's 2018.
Okay, I was
Because
going to say I don't think it was that long ago.
I was in Monterey, California for a conference at the education conference, and that's when it took place. Was that, and the reason I'm trying to think about that was, well, that's immaterial. I ran into the governor of Nebraska at church, and he and I both talked about how 2018 and 2019 were years that we can just put behind us and move forward.
Right. So the flood was in 2018,
18.
and this was.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it would have been the spring of 19 because that was the same year that we moved from Ogallala, and I went to that conference in April of 2019.
Okay, because then this was 22, the spring. It wasn't, well,
It was just like June.
Okay.
June
Of 22. So just 3 years later. So, I mean, the flood
Right.
was...
Right, but I don't. That was a major flood, but the one that really changed some of the channels in the course of the river was that there was even a bigger one that affected a more larger geographic area.
Okay.
Because this didn't bring in a lot of water, say from the Fort Randall Dam. This was primarily the Niobrara watershed that came through, and Verdigris and so forth, Verdigris Creek.
Okay.
So anyway, but so we started to tool down closer to the Nebraska side. Well, we got boxed in, and to the point where Stephanie wanted me to call my brother just to let people know where we're at, and I'm like, we're not lost, and she's like, yes, we are.
Well, we're not lost in the fact of that we can see the South Dakota shore on one side and we can see the Nebraska shore on the other, but we don't know how to get to either shore or back to the main, river channel. So we were going in these, what are those finger things called?
Chutes.
Mm-hmm. And because my kayak is shallower, he kept saying, you go up there. You go up there and see if you can get through. So I'm like paddling, pushing my paddles like into the mud, trying to, not have to get out to see if I can make it through. And then I'd get to the end and nope, it's just a bunch of weeds.
Tall
like
sawgrass.
Yeah, like literally reeds. We're going to have to trudge through this to get to the other side kind of thing. So anyway, we're probably 3 to 4 hours into our kayaking trip at this point. And like we said, we didn't have much water, didn't have much food. It was blazing hot, probably close to 100 degrees, humid, no wind, which if you can believe that,
right,
no wind at all. So it was, and then you'd get back in these little chutes and you have,
trees on both sides.
Well, trees, but weeds.
Yeah.
And so, it was just as still can be, blazing hot, no shade, no nothing. So needless to say, I'm getting scared and I just want somebody to know that, we must have been a little bit later in the day because I want to say, I was getting concerned that it was going to be nightfall. I think by the time we got out, it was about 6 p.m.
Yeah, between 5 and 6. I think the whole ordeal
was about 6 hours.
Was about 6 hours, and
yeah.
And
so I just wanted somebody to know, we at this point have not figured out how to get back to the main chute, and we did probably 3 or 4
main channel. Yes.
Main channel. There you go, because we were in these chutes.
Yes, that's right.
And I thought my life was coming to an end in a chute in the Niobrara River or whatever that river is.
To make even a longer story, trying to make it short and save a little bit of face, I actually towed Stephanie for quite a while.
Well, but what happened before that is I literally broke down. I was bawling. And I've had a lot of
trauma in your life.
Trauma in my life. I am a crier, but I don't think I'm a cry at the drop of a hat kind of a thing. I was so scared, and he was so upset with me for not trusting him.
Yes.
And I was like, I just want somebody to know.
Yeah. When
he finally
when she calls her mom and says, I love you, and if I don't get home, tell Dad I love him too.
And my kids.
And it's okay, we may not make it past today, but we did.
Yeah, anyway, so when I completely lost it, he was like, how about we pray? And for those of you that don't know, we've said it a few times, we're Catholic, and I love the rosary. It's a source of peace and joy in my life. And he's like, how about we pray the rosary? And I was like, no! And I'm sure he was like, wow, this is getting really bad because this girl doesn't even want to pray. And he's like, okay, well, how about I pray the rosary and then give me your one. I think you told me with a paddle, right?
No, it was a rope.
You had a rope?
Yeah, I had a
You did you have a bungee strap?
No, it was bungee straps that I had. But yes,
Jeez.
I did not have a ratchet strap. So,
Yeah.
oddly enough.
So anyway, he did tow me for quite some time because I was sore. I was physically sore as well because I had
Upstream,
not kayaked.
by the way.
Yeah.
I towed you upstream.
But to that point is the river wasn't really flowing.
It was still upstream.
You're right. Did you hear that?
Period.
Yeah.
Yes, period.
So anyway, he finally got me back into the main channel, and
It was a beautiful, beautiful trip the rest of the way because
Yeah.
I paddled a little bit ahead of her and just out of earshot.
that's not true. I think you were probably afraid for your life at that point.
From
For the
you,
ramifications,
from you.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah, it's-
So, but we have kayaked since then.
yeah, but not just for the record, not at any one point in time on that trip was I concerned about our safety, our ability to get to where we were going to go. But I will admit that worst case scenario was that totally underprepared in terms of what we should have had with us in terms of water, sunscreen, those kinds of things. But again, if I probably wouldn't have done anything differently if I was by myself, and that's probably the downfall, is that I should have thought of you.
Well, you've learned a lesson. So
Have
those
I?
of you that
Have
are
I
in
now?
relationship or are single men, always remember to think about the woman. How is she gonna do on this?
The other half. Yeah.
That's right.
No, it was a growing experience for both of us because I think that, you did have to trust me. You did. I mean,
did.
you didn't want to, but you had to.
Well, the reality is that there was
And
a
if you
time
had-
where I didn't, and
Yeah,
I
but-
didn't really know if you knew what was happening until
well,
and you didn't. I don't know if at this point yet if you understood how sore I was and how
I still probably don't understand that.
like
but, yeah.
I was at my I was not doing well, obviously emotionally or physically. So
So, well,
Anyway.
we got through the ratchet straps. We got through the kayaking experience. Yes,
Yes.
we have gone kayaking a couple of different times, not on any river.
No.
Not that I'm aware of. But we've brought the kayaks here, and that's really one of the most peaceful things that a person can do is
actually, the last time we were here, we brought the kayaks, and I caught my first fish
off the kayak.
off of a kayak.
Yeah.
I mean, not my first fish ever.
Right,
My
your
first fish off of a kayak. Yeah.
It was a nice largemouth bass.
That was fun because that thing buried in the weeds and pulled me for a while. So
Getting pulled around the lake in a kayak by a big largemouth bass.
yeah,
Yeah, that was fun. But no, what I was getting at was, along the shore and just kind of not even really paddling very much, just looking over the side of the kayak and watching the fish in their space, living their lives.
and big snapping turtles.
Mm-hmm.
This lake has got some very large snapping turtles, which makes me a little bit nervous when I'm thinking about swimming down there. But
They don't care about you,
yeah,
and
I hope not.
they won't bother your toes. Plus, you've got swimming water shoes on too. So
So they'll take my shoe
yeah, that's
and avoid me. Yeah.
no, I don't think so. So kayaks, that's something that an outdoor activity that we share. The side by side, the around here.
That's a story too. We survived that as well.
Yeah, that's right. But I think we shared that one, didn't we? Or did on the podcast before, or did I? I don't know. I think I said we'll talk about it at another time. That was this spring. I have shared that I purchased a Kawasaki mule, and my mom named it Festus for the reference to Gunsmoke, because only Festus rode only mules. So, but anyway, so we traded the mule in for a 6-seat Ranger crew, and that, of course, that was an ordeal too, because somebody wanted all the bells and whistles with air conditioning, and my whole point was, why would you want to go out on the trails and have to close all the windows and everything else like that? But hey, I won't say anything more about that. No more. Sorry.
We said that this podcasting was going to be good for our relationship, remember?
Sure. No, you said I'm getting things out now. So, but so anyway, we took it to the Black Hills, and it had snowed the day before, so there's a lot of snow on the ground, and we went out.
This was this a year ago? Was it September? October?
No, it was the spring.
Oh.
It was in the spring. It was because that was the time we met Ann. Mesa went to go stay with Ann for a month, and that was in May, early May. Yeah. This year. That was this year. Because it was right before.
You're right.
Technically, you had to have the trail passes because they weren't officially the main trails weren't open yet.
That's right.
So we were on the forest roads, most of the forest roads.
Right.
But Mesa was with us, and we went for a ride in the morning, and it was still snowy. It was, but the ranger was doing something odd that I had never experienced with my Kawasaki before, and I didn't know, maybe this is just a Polaris thing, but going down hills, it would pop out of gear. It would pop out of drive and go into neutral, but I would just stop and put it back in gear, and away we'd go. Well, then we met Mesa's aunt, and because Mesa was going to go stay with her for a while, and then we decided to go for a ride to see if we could see any wildlife, elk.
Because the Black Hills is like my favorite place on the face of the earth, and especially dusk and dawn, when you see the wildlife moving.
Well, so we went out.
And you let me drive.
You were driving, and it happened right away as we were leaving your aunt and uncle's cabin area.
And I was like, "Are you sure?"
And I'm like, "Yeah, you bet, we're good." Well, again, we'll fast forward. We saw elk almost immediately.
Yep.
And then
just a minute.
You saw.
You
saw
there you
that.
go.
Yeah.
I saw.
You saw the first elk you saw,
mm-hmm.
and of course I didn't have the camera out, and I'm getting yelled at for.
Yelled. You are just like my children.
I think she, that was it. She stopped really fast, slammed it in reverse, tried to get back so we could get pictures, and I think that's what damaged the cable. Again,
the truth is coming out on this podcast. If we're together next week, he can report how this went.
Yeah. I'll be talking to Catherine about this next week. When she asks, how come my mom isn't speaking to you? But anyway, no, that didn't really happen, and I don't think that's what caused it. But anyway, so we went out, and we went up a trail, off of the forest road. It really wasn't, and it was one that on the map showed that it stopped, I don't know, maybe a mile into it or something like that.
But it didn't.
So we kept going.
Yeah,
yes.
And I'm an adventure kind of girl, and I mean, disregard.
Unless you're on a kayak on the Missouri River. Yeah, holy smokes. You talk about talking in circles. Okay. So, yeah, we're on this adventure on a side-by-side. Because you were driving. Sure. So we get to a point where I'm thinking, okay, well, it's getting to be
dark,
dusk, too.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we probably should turn around. And all in all, I think we're about 10 miles from your aunt and uncle's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's not a whole lot of people out there at this time of the year.
Yeah. So anyway, we go to turn around, and that was when the first, folks, I'd love to have maybe I'll put a survey up on the website just to see, how do people turn around? Do you
go uphill on the right?
Do you pull forward and go downhill, or do you back uphill? Yeah, this is really kind of a.
I'm guessing
this is a
there's
sore
more
spot
people.
I don't know
that don't even think about that.
Well, okay.
Anyway,
then chance favors the prepared mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't ever pull forward going downhill. Anyway, so she pulls forward to make a 3-point turnaround, and she pulls forward, and goes to put shifter, the gear. So anyway,
So I pull forward.
Stop. Anyway, you pull forward, and then you go to shift to reverse, and nothing. I mean, the shifter's just loose, just going up and down, not even. And so,
well, I looked over at you, and you're like, well, let go of the brake a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I like just kind of rolled forward a little bit more. Still absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And so I can't remember. Did we switch places?
Oh,
and
yeah.
You kept your foot on the brake?
Let me tell you how this worked. You're like, you need to get out of that seat. I mean, there wasn't I wonder what we should do. It was immediately like, get the heck out of that seat. But I think I like opened the door and kept my foot on the brake, and you scooted over.
Okay, so I didn't remember how that all transpired. But anyway,
it would go forward.
It would go forward, and it did shift into 4-wheel drive. So I made a big loop over stumps and trees and everything to get back on the trail.
I think I actually had to move a rock or a stump or something for you to get around. But he was totally going over things that we wouldn't typically go over.
Right. And anyway, and got back on the trail, and it's like, okay, I'm going to drive. I'm going to stay. We're not going to stop.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep going. And of
because
course,
remember it had been going out of forward.
Right.
Yeah, or of drive.
And new to the Ranger, I think I probably now, after studying the whole thing, I probably could have manually shifted it somehow. But anyway, so we got back. And,
in that conversation between that moment and the 10 miles back to my aunt and uncle's cabin, we made a list of things that we needed to bring with us if we were ever in a pickle.
Spare tire, flashlight, fire extinguishers,
warm clothes. I mean, I think I had my Hey Dudes on.
Yeah,
and
we
didn't take
were not prepared.
No. So in other words, there's a common denominator here of Greg and Stephanie not being prepared when we're in the great outdoors.
We're better prepared now.
We are.
And that is something that we can promote to people is to.
Yeah.
And Catherine and I were talking about that too.
Don't do what we do.
Well, yeah. But like a hunt, the preparations prior to a hunt, you really don't want to leave any stone unturned. Mm-hmm. And you want to kind of plan for any type of situation. Of course, Catherine was, in that podcast that we're talking about it, I think she spent half the time talking about snakes. Has she said anything to you about snakes in the texts or anything like that?
She hasn't, but
she's been talking about snakes a lot, and she hasn't, so she put all of this, I don't know if you would call it anxiety, but she put this forethought of snake concerns, and it hasn't been an issue. But
you never know.
But you never know. That's my point.
Right.
And the other thing is with regard to going out on these types of, if you want to call them adventures or outings, like the Missouri River, okay, that was Stephanie's first time on the river, not mine. And I did not think that through. I was just anxious to get out there. And she wasn't ready for that. And Catherine was talking about the hunt, being on the hunt, West River. And that's not the first thing that somebody should do. I mean, if you're going to go deer hunting, if you're going to go with some experienced hunter, to deer camp, that's fine. But for you to try to do it by yourself, that's something that I want to make sure that people that are listening to the podcast and possibly get inspired to do some of these things, don't go from 0 to 60 in your first event. You're not going to go for a hike on the Appalachian Trail, the first hike you ever go on. That's my point. So, But yeah, I think we're better prepared now in terms of that. Even though, like yesterday, we knew we were not going very far or anything else like that. But like, I didn't have any water or anything like that. You had a little bit, but so.
Well, we weren't going very far, but we do have a fire extinguisher. We do have a spare tire. We do have first aid kit. We do have things now. Yeah. So, yeah.
And those are things that you should not learn like we did.
So as far as pickleball goes, what are the things that we would need to be prepared for a day at pickleball?
Well, aside for your pickleball racket and your pickle balls, that sounds like
Water.
that sounds like a water.
Water.
Yeah, that sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit. Anyway,
I think you're funnier than you thought you were.
yeah, no,
No, I think you're funnier than they think you are.
right. Well, if you want to know what I'm thinking about right now, go to a Saturday Night Live YouTube video and look up the interview with Pete Schveddy, and we'll go from there. So, anyway, but that's really, I mean, shoes. You need to make sure that you're using.
Yeah. I think the reality is that I used to do a lot of physical hunting, and the older I've gotten and the more my kids have gotten into hunting, to be honest, like I like to go and walk and be a observer now more so than actually shooting or killing something. Plus, like if all of us shot deer, we'd have to get like 3 more freezers. We already have 2.
True.
And they're usually full to the brim kind of thing. So we just don't need the meat anymore. And I enjoy taking pictures and hearing, the kids' story. Well, but being part of it, being there, but hearing their,
Banter.
There you go. That's the word I was trying to come up with when we're out and doing things like that. So I would say, other than the deer hunt that you took me on in Nebraska last
2 years ago.
2 years ago already? Wow. That's the only actual hunting other than dove hunting that you and I have done together. Is that accurate?
I think so.
Which is kind of crazy, because hunting is kind of like, or the idea of hunting is what brought us together. But we still like the outdoors.
Well, and that's and I've said that many times. The title of the podcast is Healing Through the Hunt, but that's kind of maybe, I don't know if it that applies to maybe Catherine and me more specifically, just because that's where I spent time with Catherine to the point where I asked her to be the podcast co-host,
Right.
and that was through basically turkey hunting,
Right.
So, but outdoor activities are what we're really focusing on, and that and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be hunting. I'm sure there are people that listen to different types of podcasts, maybe that aren't hunters at all. But I mean, fishing. One of the interviews that I had here recently, they talked about there's people that are just adamant about not hunting, but they go fishing all the time, and so what's the difference? And I've heard this before, but he talks about it's the eyelash thing. It's the eyelash. Deer have eyelashes, so I'd never shoot a deer, but since a fish doesn't have eyelashes, no problem catching a
They don't bat their
bluegill.
eyes at you as much.
Yeah.
Well, at least you can't see it when you're,
Right. So,
yeah.
but anyway, when we're up here in the Minnesota heartland, as I said, Lake Country, Minnesota really has developed thousands of miles of ATV trails, UTV, snowmobile trails, obviously in the wintertime, and some can be used by both, but there are
Not
a
a
lot.
lot. I'm kind of jealous of the snowmobilers.
Yeah, there's
actually.
a lot of snowmobile trails that are off limits to the ATVs and UTVs, and that's okay. But the other thing is that you get to ride a side by side for 12 months out of the year, as opposed to you're waiting for the first snow and maintaining snow that way. But in our area, it's called the Forest Riders ATV Club and the Forest Riders Trails. And if you ever want to research that, again, going to the Minnesota DNR website, you can get information about, because you do have to purchase like a trail pass, and it's inexpensive. I think $30 or something like that for a year. And I mean, we've only been on the trails around here. We've been on the Two Inlets trails. We've been on some of the Forest Riders trails, and we haven't been on them all.
No, just scratch the surface.
Yeah. So, but it's one of those things that we enjoy doing.
I'm
And
super anxious because the last time we were here, I think maybe we touched on it a little
I
bit.
think you told me, are you super anxious or are you looking forward to?
That's, there you go. We should pool the audience.
Poll.
Poll the audience.
Pool the audience.
Sorry. Poll the
Poll.
audience.
Poll.
Is anxious mean you have anxiety about or you're looking forward to? I don't know.
Well, you're the one
I'm
that told
anxious.
me.
I'm anxious about like this. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. Oh, me too. So anyway.
So what are you looking forward to?
Well, the last time we were here, we actually saw 3 different bear sightings between Teresa and
The rest of us.
you and I, and then all of us together.
That's right.
So
But
I would really like
to be fair, to be fair about the bear, the one we are supposing it was a bear because
Yeah.
it wasn't a positive.
the third one that was a supposedly,
Well, we can't confirm.
we can't confirm, but it was a very large animal in very dark color. And we all saw it in binoculars, but couldn't make out what it was. And then we turned around to go the other way and went past that same area, and it was not there.
It was gone.
It was gone.
So it was either
It was a movable object.
yeah, and the size of it had to have been a black bear
Yeah.
or an alien. We don't know.
Yeah, UFO. I mean, I guess.
No, sorry.
Take your pick, but
but no, it was definitely something, and based upon the circumstance and the area and everything else and the size,
it was right on the edge of a
or it was
body of
the
water.
biggest beaver that was known to man.
Yeah.
But no, it probably was another black bear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we saw 3, and that's
Could have been Bigfoot. I
never
mean,
thought of that.
Yeah. I
That's
suppose
true.
it could have been Bigfoot, like bending over to wash his hair or something.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I'm 61, and my first trip to this cabin was when I was 5 years old. So, in the what is the math there? 7, and so if I was there for 5 years, 1 minus 5, 6. The first 56 years that I've come to this cabin.
You've never seen a bear.
Never seen a bear. And I was surprised to find out my mom, who's 96 and has been coming up here since 1933, she's never seen a bear up here.
You guys have seen like remnants, like
Evidence. Yeah.
of a bear being in the area.
Yeah, well, and I think
Sarah talked about that on a different podcast.
right, but I think that there's also been visual. I think my brother Dave and maybe brother-in-law Steve was up here too. I can't remember, but the trash was overturned and everything else, and when they looked out the window, they did see the back of a bear going, toward the point. So we have had visual evidence, and the neighbors next door, one of the funniest stories that I've ever heard with regard, actually there's 2 bear stories that are, to me, that tickle my ribs, but this one was their dog. They had this little, fluffy dog, and started whimpering and hiding under the bed and just acting really, really strange. And they didn't know what was going on, and they really didn't, pursue it. And then she walked by the window to the deck, and some movement caught her eye, and there was a bear just face first into their rain barrel drinking, and it drank about half the rain barrel of water, and then it came up on their deck and took a nap. Mm-hmm. And this whole time, this dog was just like,
scared out of its mind,
shaking, and but anyway, so there are, bears in the area. And I did read an article in Outdoor News about why potentially we're seeing more bear. But they did also, in a recent article in Outdoor News, they said be a little bit aware of the fact that this wasn't a good natural or wild food year. So as they start to put the feed bag on toward the winter time, they may be more actively searching different types of food. And then, if you leave trash out, then that's a bad thing. So, so what else? What else have we done? Pickleball is one of those things that for both of us, we really like it. And the other thing about the main thing about pickleball is that that's one of those that if you haven't been active for a while, then you maybe want to ease into that because it is pretty strenuous. And I mean, you don't want to be an inactive person and then go out and try to
Kind of depends on who you're playing against, though. I mean, you can stand in one spot and ease your way into it if you hit the ball nicely to each other.
Yeah, okay, that was a dig. But in general, what I'm talking about is that's one of those things that it's a physical activity, and you may want to check with your doctor or kind of get a physical before that. I mean, I'm 61 years old, so. But I haven't been totally inactive, but I haven't been overly active. And I eased into it. I mean, the first few times that I played, I didn't really put a whole lot of effort into it. And we have played an increasing amount of pickleball and, kind of worked myself into shape. But, I have been diagnosed with AFib, so that's something that... a person should also be aware of those types of physical or health concerns that a person may have. So that's all I'm saying. Sure. I mean, Jake, it's like Catherine when she gets prepared or is preparing for a hunt like this where she's going to be hiking a lot like that, she throws that rock in her backpack.
Multiple rocks,
and when you pick up the backpack thinking it's in the way, so I'm going to pick it up and move it from one place to the next, I throw out my back because I'm not expecting that. So so you do have to prepare for those kinds of things, and that's probably one of the things that when I talked to the gentleman from the South Dakota Game, Fish and Parks about elk hunting, people maybe get a romanticized idea about going elk hunting, and there's a lot of hiking, but the other thing is an elk's a 300-400 pound animal, and
how are you going to get it out?
How are you going to get it out?
Harvest one, yeah.
You're right, and it's probably not going to be one trip.
Right.
So
I remember the first time Tony and I went elk hunting, and I got an elk. I got a cow elk. We had hunted hard for 4 or 5 days, and I hadn't any elk, but I finally decided to take a cow just to take something. And I shot it, and we weren't really that far off of the trail where you could pull a UTV or something up to it. And I waited with the elk while he went and got knives and stuff like that, and then he got back and we gutted it, and and it had snowed that morning, and so it's always really nice to have snow on the ground to pull a animal out. Makes it a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay. He's like, you grab that leg, I'll grab this leg. I mean, we've done this how many times with deer, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, this is no big deal. And we both grab one leg and we start walking. It was just like we just ran into a tree. I mean, it was we weren't going anywhere. And it was a little bit of a grade uphill. It wasn't a steep hill by any stretch. But yeah, he ended up having to pull the UTV down, wiggle its way down, and we drug it out. Mm-hmm. So thank goodness we had that ability.
Opportunity.
I'm not really sure if that's legal. Like most of those, you're not supposed to have, you're not supposed to go off the trails. Mm-hmm. But there was, other than, like you said, or you've talked about before, quartering it and doing those kind of things, we probably could have done that and probably should have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a whole lot heavier than we were expecting.
Yeah, they're huge animals.
Yeah, they are. But really good to eat, so.
Yummy.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast today. Hopefully we made a few people smile.
Well, probably the most important thing to learn from this podcast is that you can get through tough situations if you communicate and
you're willing to forgive each other.
And forgive each other. I was going to say admit that you're wrong, but that's another way of saying it. Yes, forgive each other.
That's right.
Well, before we sign off, I think I want you, Stephanie, as a member of the Unbroken and Brave Foundation. Catherine and I talked about there's going to be some news of a fundraiser, an announcement coming up, and why don't we take this opportunity for you to share a little bit about what that's all about?
Yeah, definitely. So since we have rebranded, we have not had any fundraisers yet. So we are going to have our first fundraiser officially November 23rd, and that's going to be in Sioux Falls. And it's called
Cornhole and Claws.
Cornhole and Claws. We've had a big argument, so to speak. I say Santa Claus.
And I say Santa Claus, and so does everybody else in this world.
Well, we've run into a few people that say Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
It's Cornhole and Claws.
So it'll be a cornhole tournament.
Yep, and Santa Claus will be there. Oh.
Santa Claus will be there.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so it's a family-friendly activity where you can come out and you can compete playing cornhole. You can have pictures taken with Santa Claus. Nice. And for a free will donation, there's going to be concessions. We don't have the specific times yet, but it's going to be in the afternoon of November 23rd. Registration, all of those kind of things that information will be coming.
TBA.
And if you or anyone you know would like to donate to help with the fundraiser, either a straight donation to Unbroken and Brave, or we're looking for specific things for some different raffle baskets that we're going to be doing. And then we're going to have first, second, and third place prizes for the tournament itself. So if you or anybody you know is interested in helping out with that, we also need some volunteers.
Sure.
So I'm going to be not too far out from my second knee replacement, so I'm not going to be super active. And not that I'm, the end all be all, but we need a few people to replace me probably.
Three. We need 3 people to replace that.
There you go. But anyway, but just in general, our foundation is looking for people that are wanting to volunteer in all capacities, whatever your gifts are. We will likely be able to put you to work either on that day or just in general, helping us move the foundation forward.
Sure. Well, that's exciting. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the day. And again, being able to promote the foundation, the Unbroken and Brave Foundation, through the Unbroken Arrows podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely.
As we end our podcast, we like to remind people that our immediate family has experienced cancer-related deaths as a result of leukemia, prostate, and ovarian cancer. And it would be safe to say that every one of us has had our lives impacted by cancer in some way. A healthy diet, which can include wild game and fish, and exercise through outdoor activities, has the potential to improve a person's physical and mental health. At any age, if you're active, stay active. If you are not as active as you'd like to be, it's not too late to start now as a way to improve your physical and mental health. If you or someone you know is thinking of suicide or in need of crisis intervention, call the Crisis and Suicide Lifeline by dialing 988. To all our listeners, take some time to get outside, enjoy the outdoors, and experience its healing powers. With that, on behalf of Catherine and me, and today Stephanie, until next time.